You are not lazy. You are scared. This is why you put off doing the important work. I was stuck with this fear for over a year, and I'm telling you, if you don't overcome it, you will fail. But when you know where fear really comes from, you easily overcome it. Hello, brother. My name is Dennis. I make raw, authentic videos that help young men improve themselves and live a life of purpose. In chapter 1, we'll talk about where the fear comes from, in 2 about why it's happening, and in 3 exactly what you can do right now to solve it. If you want to stop procrastinating and start smashing your goals, then this is the video for you. Chapter 1, the fear. So as I said earlier, I was stuck for over a year not being able to do the work. When I started this channel, I was supposed to post consistently and learn about YouTube, but instead I spent the first year basically having mental health problems, being afraid of posting videos and just not doing that much work. I was stuck for over a year with this problem. And basically, if I wanted to post consistently on my YouTube channel, like I'm doing right now, if I wanted to consistently work on my goals, I had to figure out the source of this problem. And I eventually realized that I wasn't lazy. I wasn't a lazy person at all. In fact, I was working out and stuff. I loved work. It wasn't that I was lazy. I was fucking afraid. But I'm not talking about this irrational fear where you are truly afraid and you get sympathetic nervous system response. No, I'm talking about a different fear. This one is more of a anxiety in the back of your head. When you're trying to do the work, do you feel this doubt in the back of your head? If the work is worth it, if you're gonna be able to do it, if you're gonna fail or not. You probably feel this exact negative thoughts flooding your head when you're trying to work. And when that happens, your brain basically tells you like, hey, why don't you do something else that's not the work? You start avoiding the work because of this underlying fear that you have. It is because of our fear to achieve our goals that we actually do not do the work to achieve our goals. But let me tell you something, man. Fear is made up. Fear doesn't actually exist. Like, you can't touch fear. You can't show fear to anybody. It's just in your head. It's made up. So your mind makes up fear as a protective mechanism. The great thing about your thoughts and your emotions and things like fear is that because they are in your head, you can 100% control them. But to control fear, you first have to know why it happens. Chapter 2, the shadow self. Right now, there are 2 parts of you. Believe it or not, there is actually 2 people inside of you. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now, Dr. Jekyll is the good guy. He wants to achieve his goals. He wants to work hard and succeed in life. And Mr. Hyde is the guy who sabotages you. Mr. Hyde gives you the fear every time you try to do work. Mr. Hyde gives you the excuses. Mr. Hyde gives you the anxiety and the doubts and every negative emotion you have when you're actually trying to do the work. Mr. Hyde is giving it to you. Because when you really think about it, whatever work you're probably trying to do, whether it's studying, whether it's business, whatever you're trying to do, there is probably 0 risk. You have 0 risk of actually doing the work and something dangerous happening to you. But Mr. Hyde keeps sabotaging you by giving you fear. Now, this person who sabotages you in psychology is called the shadow self. You probably try to hide your shadow self. You don't want people to associate you with the emotions you feel from your shadow self. So why does the shadow self, or Mr. Hyde, tries to stop you every time you're doing your work? Well, because it's an instinct for self-preservation. Mr. Hyde is trying to keep you alive. The reason this self-preservation instinct develops in your head is because of trauma. When you were young, you experienced some type of negative experience in your life. Mr. Hyde feeds on trauma and he grows. The more trauma you experience, the bigger your shadow self is. The more likely you are to betray yourself. The reason you can't do your work and you keep procrastinating is because you've had so much trauma in your past life that Mr. Hyde, the shadow self, has grown. And when the shadow self grows, then you betray yourself. You don't do what you command yourself to do. If you are to do any work, if you are to overcome your procrastination, Mr. Hyde has to die. Do you think that the excellent student or the millionaire or just the successful men struggle to do work? They don't struggle. For them it's easy. When you struggle to do work, you have to rely on your willpower. When you rely on your willpower, you're never consistent. If you are to truly do work and stop procrastinating, you have to make it feel easy. The way you make it feel easy is by killing Mr. Hyde. Because Mr. Hyde is the shadow self. The shadow self is what makes work feel hard in the first place. It's not hard to study and write stuff down. But the reason it's hard is because you've been traumatized, and now Mr. Hyde wants to indulge in self-betraying behavior instead of actually doing your goals and doing your work. So how can we overcome and kill Mr. Hyde once and for all? Chapter 3, Overcoming. In order to defeat Mr. Hyde, you have to solve your trauma. You don't necessarily need to go to a therapist to solve trauma. In fact, I've got a great technique for you. Open your Pinky Gay journal, or at least mine is Pinky Gay, but you can open your own journal, which might not be pink. You can choose whatever color. It's kind of irrelevant. You can open your journal and basically keep writing about your childhood past. And specifically remember what got you to do the bad habits in the first place. Specifically, what you can do is you can go back in the past to the origin of your bad habits. So, when did you first start procrastinating? Around that time is when your childhood trauma happened. So if you keep scrolling on Instagram, when did you first start scrolling on Instagram? Like obsessively. When did you start scrolling and then wasn't able to control yourself? When did this become an issue? That's when your trauma probably happened. So keep journaling about your childhood trauma. Keep journaling, and you probably won't do this. You'll probably watch this video and click off like, whatever, this is bullshit. But it's not. Literally keep journaling about your childhood trauma. Keep journaling until you're crying. If you're crying, if you start fucking crying when you journal about your trauma, about what happened to you as a child, and you don't need to have been abused. Nothing exceptional needs to have happened. Maybe you were bullied once in school. Maybe that's the only trauma you have, but now you're self-sabotaging yourself because your shadow self has grown. You need to go back. This is psychology, this is Carl Jung. You need to go back in the past and discover the origins of your shadow self. When did Mr. Hyde grow? When did you experience the trauma in your life? And you should be crying when you're doing this. If you're doing it correctly, you should be crying. Literally sit down and journal for 1 hour. Close your eyes and try to remember when bad shit happened to you as a child. That's when the trauma affected you. And when you uncover that trauma, you uncover your shadow self and you release it. Something happens psychologically in your brain when you just journal and remember your trauma, and then when you accept it, it just goes away. The shadow self, Mr. Hyde, shrinks, and you suddenly don't self-sabotage yourself anymore. So that's the actionable step I want you to do today. Journal about your childhood trauma. Journal about the origin of your bad habits. What happened? What got you to do this? And I'm gonna admit something embarrassing here, right here on camera. I'm admitting something embarrassing. I started watching pornography at 13 years old when I got rejected by a girl I liked. That was traumatic for me, being rejected like that. And so I started watching pornography. And pornography was the habit, and still is, sometimes the habit that actually prevents me from doing work. I know it's easy to underestimate this advice, but I want to say that I was stuck for so long, not completing any work, not actually doing what I wanted to do with this YouTube channel, not actually uploading videos regularly, at least 5 times a week. I was stuck because I was self-sabotaging myself. When I did this, when I discovered my shadow self, when I journaled about my trauma, suddenly I could do the work way better. If you want me to coach you one-on-one on how to improve your discipline, productivity, there's more to this. That it's not only about journaling, it's other mental health habits that you have to do. But if you want me to help you, coach you one-on-one on how to achieve that, check out the link in the description. If you found value in this video, then join the movement, become a purposeful man. Check out the Discord as well. There's a few guys in there. You can ask me anything. And remember, if you don't achieve your purpose, nobody will. Be ruthless.